One of the things that we're really thinking about with our clients at ISBA is around price and cost sensitivity analysis. So, I think the first thing that brands can do is really track their competitors' prices. If you're facing tariff-driven cost increases, that's likely going to be happening across the board. So see what your competitors are doing and try to position yourself accordingly. I think we saw this similar back in, around COVID and in 2020 when import costs were skyrocketing, right? And then we saw the wave of emails from different brands kind of increasing costs across the board. This shouldn't be necessarily your go-to, but I think it's helpful to understand from a brand positioning perspective and a cost perspective what others are doing, and see if that makes sense for you as well. The next is really understanding, customer price elasticity. So how much can you adjust pricing without impacting the demand for that particular product as well? So if you adjust price by 5%, right, do you see a huge drop off in conversion, or is it 10%? There's also potentials that there's going to be fluctuations in the currency as well, which is going to adjust the buying power of the US dollar in these countries too. So that's a way to think about reducing these costs. And then, taking some on yourself, and then also looking for other ways and in the supply chain to adjust prices, whether that's, reducing parcel costs or giving customers more options from a shipping standard. So I think just understanding price elasticity, understanding what's important to your customer is key. And then also just understanding it's a perfect time to think about margins and to adjust them accordingly, potentially adding a line for tariffs in your budgets, right? A lot of people have locked their 2025 budgets, but we're still early in the year. So I think, considering reforecasting, it's always better to overperform to your budget. And so making the assumption that these are going to come into play, taking those strategies outside to mitigate them as well, would be all things that brands could really focus on.
And just to add to that last point too, one of the things that we saw in COVID was, let's suppose the cost of something went up by 25%. What companies were doing, big companies in particular, is they were raising their prices by 30 or 35%. And so what I've talked to some brands that said, hey, I've really got this really difficult deal with Walmart, right? Like they really negotiated hard. I have a tough margin there. Some brands, if they feel that they've got the elasticity of demand, are actually using tariffs as an excuse to improve the margins that they charge to their customers. And so I think it's important to call out that there are two sides to this. And even if the 25% tariffs came into play across the board, you probably would see prices going up by 30% or 35% because people are going to try to adjust and get the margin structure they're looking for.